Hello everyone, this is second part video on the electrostatics force and field. In this video we will discuss about the idea of how the charge concept has been established in the modern day and properties of the charges. So in the first part video we talked about how people came to know the idea of electric charges because of this stronger than gravitational force that is being discovered between the charged objects. So they've even established that there could be two kinds of charges. The like charges they will repel each other, and unlike charges they will attract each other. Now more clarity on the idea of charge has come after the discovery of the fundamental particles. So it has been established that matter is made up of atoms, and inside the atom there are these three fundamental particles. Electrons, as per the Bohr's theory, they will be outside the nucleus, revolving around the nucleus, and protons and neutrons, they will be inside the nucleus. So these three set of particles is what we will call as the fundamental particles. We can also call them as subatomic particles. So if you look at the subatomic particles, they have two basic properties. One is mass and second is charge. So if you look at electrons, protons and neutrons. So electrons are the lighter particles. They have a mass of 9.1 into 10 power minus 31 kg approximately, and protons and neutrons, they will have almost similar mass, which will be approximately 1836 times mass of the electron. So the protons and neutrons, they'll have almost similar mass. Now talking about the charge of these fundamental particles, neutrons are neutral, which means they do not have any charge. Protons and electrons, they have charge. They are charged particles. Their charge magnitude will be same, but they carry charges of opposite nature. So accordingly, the charge on electron has been assigned as a negative, and the charge on protons is assigned as positive. And the magnitudes of charge, so we'll discuss after some time the units of charge. So SI unit of charge is named after the scientist Coulomb. So Coulomb, which is indicated by the symbol capital C, is the SI unit of charge. The magnitudes of charge on both protons and electrons is 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. It is a very small value. So accordingly, the charge of electron will be minus 1.6 in 10 power minus 19 coulomb, and charge on protons will be plus 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. So this 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulomb value is sometimes what we also call as the basic charge. So the basic charge, which we indicate with a symbol small e, is nothing but the magnitudes of charge on either the proton or the electron. Now the matter, as it gets mass from electrons and protons and neutrons, because matter is made up of molecules or the ions, and molecules and ions, they will basically be consisting of atoms. So atoms are made up of protons, electrons and neutrons. So mass of matter basically comes from mass of protons, mass of electrons and mass of neutrons. Similarly, the charge of matter also comes from the charge which is there for the electrons and protons, because neutrons, they do not have any charge. Now if we look at an atom, any atom we take, the number of electrons inside the atom will be equal to number of protons. This number is what we call as the atomic number. And if the number of protons is equal to number of electrons, we look at the total charge of the atom. So total charge of the atom will be number of electrons into each electron will be having minus 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulomb. each proton will be having plus 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulomb. Neutrons we are not counting because they don't have a charge. Since number of protons is equal to number of electrons, the total charge of the atom will be neutral. That is, I mean, zero. That is why we call atoms to be neutral. Now then, how would these atoms get charge? Atoms will get charge when they transfer electrons. If there is an atom, it is losing electrons. So if it is losing electrons means the net charge remaining on the atom will be positive. If there is an atom that is gaining electrons, then the net charge remaining on this will become negative. So the loss or gain of electrons, which we can call as the transfer of electrons, is the reason for the charge on the objects. So an object losing electron will become positively charged, and the object gaining electron will become negatively charged. So generally, if you look at metals, they have the characteristics of losing electrons, and non-metals they will have the characteristic of gaining electrons. So the charge on the objects is supposed to come from the transfer of electrons. And if you look at charge, it is a physical quantity, but it is not a fundamental physical quantity. So the fundamental physical quantity related to the charges and electricity is electric current. So SI unit of charge, coulomb, is defined as 1 ampere current multiplied by time 1 second. So 1 ampere into second will be the SI unit of charge, which is 1 coulomb. So coulomb is the SI unit of charge. And if we are looking for a smaller units of charge, we can use a suitable prefix. Like if you put a milli, so small m represents milli, it will be 10 power minus 3. If you put a mu represents 10 power minus 6, which is micro. If you put a small n, nc, it will be representing nano. So if you put a small p, this will be representing pico. Nano will be 10 power minus 9, pico will be 10 power minus 12. So if you are looking for smaller units of charge, then we can use suitable prefixes. And the CGS unit of charge, we will not find this in many textbooks because people don't discuss about it much. The CGS unit of charge is stat coulomb or ESU, electrostatic unit. And there is one more unit for the charge, which is the electromagnetic unit, that is called as ab coulomb. So the other two units of charge which we don't see much often are stat coulomb or ESU, which is the CGS unit, and ab coulomb, which is the electromagnetic unit. So just to give you an understanding of the conversion, 1 coulomb charge will be 3 into 10 power 9 stat coulomb, and 1 coulomb will be equal to 1/10 of ab coulomb. So this is the conversion between the coulomb and stat coulomb, coulomb and then ab coulomb. And since charge is not a fundamental physical quantity, the dimension of charge will be derived from the dimensions of current. So usually we look at the dimensions of current either by the symbol I or A. In some textbooks we will use symbol I, in some textbooks we will use symbol A. Since the charge is defined as current into time, we will discuss more about this when we go to the current electricity chapter. The definition of current will be the amount of charge flowing through a particular cross section area divided by the time taken. So here we have the current dimensional symbol is let us say I, we use it. We can even use A, and the time will be T. So the dimensional formula for charge, so generally we will represent charge by the symbol either capital Q or small q. So this Q is a symbol that we use for a lot of quantities in physics. In fact, if you look at thermodynamics, we will use the Q symbol for representing heat. But over here in electrostatics, we will represent Q for the charge. So the dimensional formula for charge will be either I into T or A into T, depending upon what is the symbol we are using for the current. So this is about the units and dimensional formula for the charge. Now the idea of charge is established, that charge basically coming from the charge of the fundamental particles. So it is established that just like mass, charge is also basic property of matter. Now looking at the other important properties of the charges, as it is identified even before the modern understanding of the charges, that there will be two types of charges. So the nature of charges will divide into two types. So if one of them we are assigning a positive value, other we will be assigning negative value. Now the positive and negative does not mean that the positive is higher and negative is lesser. So this is only to indicate that there are two different types of charges, and the magnitude of the charge is what will indicate the strength of the charge. It is not the sign value. Sign only talks about the nature. So if you look at the two types of charges, the important phenomena between them is that the like charges, if you have a positive and positive, or if you have a negative and negative, these like charges will be repelling each other. And the unlike charges, if you have a positive negative and negative positive kind of combination, the unlike charge combination, they will be attracting each other. So the two types of charges, like charges means they will repel each other, unlike charges means they will be attracting each other. This is one of the important properties of the charges. Now the next property which is also an important one, and this will be quite distinguishing from the property of mass. So if you look at the total charge on an isolated body, this is going to be always conserved. So remember, we are talking about an isolated body. So an isolated body means a body which is cut from the rest of the universe. So if you have a body which is cut from the rest of the universe, the total charge value, whether it is having a positive charge or negative charge or zero, whatever it is, the total charge is going to be always conserved. Now this may not be the case in the situation of mass. Why? Because in nuclear phenomena, if there is a disintegration, nuclear disintegration, then we see that some of the mass can be converted into energy. So we will learn more about this in the modern physics chapters. Nucleus chapter, we'll talk about how mass will be converted into energy. So mass of an isolated body need not be conserved because the mass can be changed into energy form, but the charge of an isolated body will be always conserved. So this is an important property of the charge. And the third and the property where there is a chance for getting questions is the property of quantization of charge. Now what is this quantization? So in science, generally, if anything happens in discrete values or discrete levels, then we say that the particular physical quantity is quantized. Like in the +1 also, some of the chapters we have studied that the Planck's quantum theory. So if you look at the Planck's quantum theory, we'll say that energy of every packet will be h into nu or h into c by lambda, and the total energy coming from radiation will be always integer times of h nu or integer times of hc by lambda. So this is what we call as the Planck's quantum theory. Then we also have the Bohr's quantum theory of angular momentum. So as per the Bohr's quantum theory of angular momentum, the angular momentum mvr of an electron in a particular orbit will be always integer multiple of h by 2 pi. So this n will be representing integer. Here also n represents integer. So anything happens in discrete values or discrete steps, we'll say that the particular quantity is quantized. Now talking about the charge, if you look at an object losing one electron, it is going to be getting exactly a charge of plus E. If it is losing 2 electrons, it will get a charge of plus 2E. If it is losing 3 electrons, if it is losing 1000 electrons, it will get plus 1000 into E. If it is losing 1 lakh electrons, it is going to get plus 1 lakh into E. So it is not going to get plus 1 by 3rd E or plus 7 by 6 E. So the fractional value is not going to come because the object is always going to lose electrons in the multiples of an integer. Similarly, if an object is gaining electrons, if it is gaining 1 electron means it will get minus E. 2 electrons means minus 2e, 3 electrons means, so what we see is the charge of an object is always going to be plus or minus n into e. So where n will indicate positive integer. So if an object is losing electrons means we'll have plus, if an object is gaining electrons means we'll have minus. So in this E will be the basic charge. So the basic charge value, as we already discussed, it will be 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. So this is about the quantization of charge principle. We'll look at this illustration problem. What is the value of charge on 1 mole of electrons? Now in chemistry also we'll have a chapter called electrochemistry. There we'll discuss about the charges and the current principles related to chemistry point of view. So there in chemistry we'll talk about the charge of 1 mole of electrons. In fact, there is going to be an important term called as equivalent weight. So equivalent weight is defined as mass of any substance that can exchange 1 mole of electrons. So the idea of charge on electrons or charge on 1 mole of electrons is quite important when we talk about the electrochemistry point of view. So we look at what is this value of charge on 1 mole of electrons. See, 1 mole of electrons basically means Avogadro number. So Avogadro number is Avogadro number of electrons means 6.022 into 10 power 23. So this is what will be the 1 mole or Avogadro number of electrons. And the magnitude of charge. So we are just looking at the magnitude of charge on 1 electron will be, so we're talking about the magnitude. So 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulomb. We know that this will be negative charge. So just the value of charge on 1 mole of electrons will be the charge on 1 mole of electrons will be 6.022 into 10 power 23 into 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. So when we do this multiplication, we'll get the value to be approximately 96,500 coulombs. So this value of charge is what we will call as 1 Faraday. So this is a unit of charge that we'll be using in the electrochemistry chapter, where when we talk about electrolysis process, there we'll be using the idea of 1 Faraday charge. So 1 Faraday charge is nothing but charge on 1 mole of electrons, and we can see that it is a much bigger value than the coulomb. So 1 Faraday will be equal to nearly 96,500 coulombs. So this is about the value of charge on 1 mole of electrons, and we will call it as 1 Faraday. We look at the next illustration. What is the number of electrons lost by a metal which has 4.8 coulombs charge? So this is again a problem based on the quantization of charge. So we need to find what is the number of electrons lost by a metal which has 4.8 coulombs charge. So as per the quantization principle, if you're talking about the positive charge on an object, Q will be equal to plus N into E. So the value of charge is given as 4.8 coulombs is equal to N into E value is basic charge 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. This N here represents the number of electrons lost by the metal. So on taking this to the LHS, what we have is 4.8 coulombs by 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs will be N. So coulomb is cancelled, 1.61s 1.63s. So the 10 power minus 19, when it goes to numerator, it becomes 10 power 19. So N value will be 3 into 10 power 19. So this is the number of electrons lost by the metal, so that it can get 4.8 coulombs charge. Now one thing we can understand here, that just to get a charge of 4.8 coulombs, we can see what is the number of electrons lost by the metal. It's not like, it is losing 10 electrons or 20 electrons or 1000 electrons. It is losing a number of electrons which is 3 into 10 power 19. So on losing these many number of electrons, the metal is able to just get a charge of 4.8 coulombs. Moving on to the next question. What is the total negative charge in 9 grams of water? So we need to find what is the total amount of negative charge in 9 grams of water. Now if you look at 9 grams of water, water basically consists of H2O molecules. Since atoms are neutral, molecules also will be neutral. So whatever, whether we'll take 9 grams of water or 20 grams of whatever the mass of water we take, if they are asking what is the total charge is going to be 0. But they are not asking us the total charge, they are asking what is the negative charge. So what happens is whatever is the amount of negative charge, we will be having the same amount of positive charge also, thereby the total amount of charge will be 0. So here the question is we need to find what is the total negative charge in 9 grams of water. For that, let us first try to understand. So here to solve this question, we even need to bring some amount of understanding on the basic principles of chemistry. It's not just going to be a pure physics problem. So if you look at a H2O molecule, so a H2O molecule will have one oxygen atom and then 2 hydrogen atoms. So each oxygen, since the oxygen atomic number is 8, will have 8 electrons. Each hydrogen will have 1 electron. So totally, if you look at one molecule, the one molecule of H2O will be having 10 electrons. So the value of charge on one molecule will be 10 into E. So where E is basic charge. So E is the basic charge. We know the value of basic charge, 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. So this is the negative charge value on one molecule of H2O. Now the thing is, if we can find out what is the number of molecules in the 9 grams of water, we can simply multiply. So if you look at 9 grams of water, we know that the molar mass of water is the gram molecular mass of water is 18 grams. So which means 9 grams of water will mean number of moles will be given mass 9 grams by molar mass 18 grams. The number of moles is half. This means number of molecules will be half into, because the number of molecules will be number of moles into Avogadro number, which is going to be 3.011 into 10 power 23. So this is the number of molecules. Now we are looking for what is the total negative charge on 9 grams of water. Each molecule of H2O has got negative charge of 10 into E, the value. Sign will be in minus, but we are just looking at the value. We are having a total number of molecules which is 3.011 in 10 power 23. So the total negative charge in this case is going to be number of molecules 3.011 into 10 power 23 into 10 times E. So we can see that it is going to be 3.011 into 10 power 24 times E. So if you want to simplify it, we can substitute the value of E as 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs, and we can get the final answer. So this is how we can find what is the total negative charge on 9 grams of water. So in any such question, what we need to first do is we need to look at one molecule and see what is the charge, negative charge. Sometimes they might ask what is the positive charge. So the amount of negative charge will be equal to, so if you look at molecules or atoms, the total negative charge content will be equal to total positive charge. So we look at one molecule and then see what is the charge, and in the given mass we will try to find what is the total number of molecules. So we just have to multiply total number of molecules with charge on one molecule. So that is how we will approach these kind of questions. Now we talked about the charge on the objects, but as we go into the deeper understanding of charges and the forces between the charges and the next further sections of the chapter, we will be dividing the charges into two types. One is what we call as point charge, and the other one is distributed charges. Like the way even in mechanics, most part of the mechanics we will use the concept of point mass for our discussions. So what is a point mass? Point mass is supposed to be located at a single location, so which will have the coordinates x comma y comma z. It is not going to occupy a volume. So point mass is a theoretical concept because mass itself will occupy volume. But for our discussions in mechanics, we use the idea of, or we use the notion of what we call as a point mass. Similarly, when it comes to charges also, in the description of some of the laws in electrostatics, we will use the notion of what we call as point charge. So point charge is supposed to be located at a single point, and just like a point mass, this is also a theoretical idea. So in practical, we will not have point charges. We are going to be having distributed charges. Distributed charges means the charge that is going to be occupying some space. And even in the distributed charges, to make the visualization easy, we will look at the distributed charges in one dimension, distributed charges in 2D, distributed charges in 3D. So what is this distribution of charges? If you look at the wire or a rod, we will consider these objects to be almost like a linear object. So we'll talk about the charge being present in just one dimension. So here for the distributed objects in 1D, we will talk about what we call as linear charge density. So linear charge density, which we use a lambda symbol to represent, will be charge per unit length. So this is how we'll talk about the charge distribution on a wire or a rod. So practically speaking, even the wire and rod, they will occupy volume. It is not like they are only present in one direction. But theoretical calculation, we will consider the wire as if the entire charge is accumulated along this particular one direction. Talking about the 2D, if we have thin plates, then thin plates will assume that the charge is accumulated on the surface. So here we'll talk about the surface charge density. Surface charge density, we will generally use the symbol sigma to represent it. It will be charge divided by the area. Then for the 3D objects, which are the common objects, we will talk about the volume charge density, which we will normally use the symbol rho itself to indicate. It is going to be charge by volume. So in our discussions related to the distributed charges, we are going to be talking about this linear charge density, surface charge density, and then volume charge density. But for the basic laws related to the electrostatics, we are going to be using the concept of point charges. Now talking about the differences between mass and charge, we have said that just like mass, charge is also a basic property or fundamental property of matter. But there are some differences between the charges and mass, and hence we will also see some differences between the electrostatic forces and the gravitational force. So if you look at mass, at least the mass that we talk about in our level of physics, we'll always talk about the positive type of mass. We don't talk about the negative mass. I mean, maybe there are some theories talking about the idea of negative mass also, but in our understanding of the mass of a body, we only be considering the positive mass. Whereas if we talk about the electric charge, we have positive charged objects, we have negative charged objects, and we also have objects having zero charge, which we will be calling as neutral. So that is the difference between the mass and charge. The other difference is if you look at charge carried by a body, it does not depend upon the velocity of the body. So if an object is moving, the charge of the body will not change. Whereas there is a property of mass that mass of the body will be increasing with its velocity. So we will learn more about this in the modern physics chapters, that if c is the velocity of light in vacuum, m is the mass of the body, which is moving with the velocity v, and m naught is the rest mass of the body. Rest mass means the mass of the body when the body is at rest. Then m will be equal to m naught by root of 1 minus v square by c square. So we will learn about this in the modern physics chapters, but just to give you some idea that okay, mass of the body will depend upon the velocity. So this is what we call as the rest mass and the moving mass. So with the velocity of the body, the moving mass will be changing. And charge, as we have seen, is quantized. We have seen that charge q will be equal to plus or minus n into e. E will be the basic charge. The quantization of mass is yet to be established. So just like the way we have quantization of charge, we don't have the quantization of mass. And we have discussed that electric charge of an isolated body is always conserved, but mass is not conserved. And we have talked about it that in the nuclear reactions, the mass can be changed into energy and vice versa. And since we have two kinds of charges, positive and negative, the positive and positive charges will repel each other. Negative and negative also will repel. So we'll say the like charges, they will repel each other, and unlike charges, they will be attracting. So we have two kinds of forces between charges, attractive or repulsive. So unlike charges, they will attract, like charges, they will be repelling each other. But if you talk about the gravitational force is always attractive in nature, because we have only one type of mass, and these positive masses will always be attracting. So these are the differences between charge and mass, and these differences will also result in the differences between gravitational force and then electrostatic force. We look at the next illustration. This is an interesting question. Mark out the correct options, which means we can choose. If there are many options, we can choose. So we look at the options. Option A is total charge of the universe is constant. Option B is total positive charge of the universe is constant. Option C is total negative charge of the universe is constant. Option D is total number of charged particles in the universe is constant. Now to answer this, so universe is consisting of all the objects. If you look at any object within the universe, let us say this object is initially neutral. This is a part of the universe. This object is present, of course, within the universe. Now we assume that outside the universe there is nothing. So universe is everything. So if you have a neutral body, and imagine if it is losing electrons to some other object, that other object also is within the universe. So if it is losing electrons, means this is going to become positive, this is going to become negative. As a result of it, what is happening? The total number of charged particles in the universe is going to be changing. So previously these two are neutral. Now this is also be counted as charged object. This is also be counted as charged object. So the option D, which is saying that total number of charged particles in the universe is constant, this is not correct. So previously these two bodies are not counted as charged bodies, but as this transfer is happening, we are going to be counting them. So this is not correct. And option B is saying that total positive charge of the universe is constant. This is also not correct. Why? Because previously this object is neutral. Now this object is suddenly becoming positive. So total positive charge of the universe is not going to be constant. Similarly, option C, total negative charge of the universe is constant. This is also not correct, because previously this body was not having any negative charge. Now this body is having negative charge, which means total negative charge of the universe is also not going to be constant. Now what is going to be constant is the total charge of the universe. So the objects are getting plus and minus, but if you look at the sum of these two, whatever is the value of plus on this, let us say this is plus 2 coulombs, this is going to be exactly minus 2 coulombs. So when you add both of them, it is going to be giving us 0. So the total charge of the universe, whatever the phenomena that happens inside the universe, the total charge of the universe is going to be constant. So the correct option is option A. So these are some of the properties of the charges that we can look at, and in the next video we'll talk about the fundamental law related to the forces between the charged particles, which is the Coulomb's law.